So today I want to talk about when things get uncomfortable. For some people, this may look different. For some, it may be stepping out into a crowd and talking about your faith. For others, it may just simply be going to work and talking to somebody that you know does not want to hear the gospel, but you share it with them anyways in hopes to get them saved. For others, it may be as bold as quitting a job and doing what Christ has called you to do, even though your job right now is comfortable and you make good money. For many people, this may look different. But today I want to talk about a disciple that encourages me when I begin to feel uncomfortable or even maybe a little bit afraid. So the specific part of the Bible that we're going to be talking about today is in Matthew chapter 14 and verses 28 through 31. The specific verse that I'm going to be talking about, that I really want to focus on anyways, is verse number 30. And it says, "But when he saw the wind and boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, 'Lord, save me.'" Now, if you're wondering who's talking in these verses, it's Peter. And if you don't know the story, Peter steps out onto the water and begins walking to Jesus after he asks the Lord, "If you bid me, I'll come and I'll walk to you." And he begins to walk on the water, despite the wind and the rain and the storm that's around him that all of his fellow disciples are scared of. He begins wanting to step out to Jesus, wants to come to Jesus regardless of the storm and regardless of his fear. And he steps out onto the water and begins to walk. But what happens is, in this verse that I read to you, is he begins to lose focus. He starts to focus on all the tragedy, all the scary stuff going on around him. What happens? He begins to sink. He begins to sink in the water. Now, what I want you to think about is the stuff that I talked about before, like quitting a job for something Christ has called you to do, stepping out into a crowd and speaking about Christ to many people, or maybe to just somebody that you know is going to be really uncomfortable to speak to. If you lose focus on who Jesus is, you will not be able to do this successfully. If you focus on him and even cry out when you feel that you cannot do these things, he will pull you up by your bootstraps and put you back where you need to be. He will give you the words in the moment that you did not think you had. When you quit your job and you think you're on your last penny and whatever it is that you quit for is just not going to work out, and you thought you were following Jesus, but it's just not working, all of a sudden he'll pull you up and he'll give you more than you ever had before. Just look at Peter. He was able to physically do one of the craziest miracles in the Bible. Step onto water and walk to Jesus. And if he can walk to Jesus and just by focusing on him and having faith in him, imagine what we can do despite our uncomfortability, despite our fear, if we just keep our focus on who Jesus is.